Now, this takes us to India, and I've been to India 3 times now. I've been warned to stay out of India. In fact, I've been told since the last trip, Runoko Rashidi, if you go to India one more time, in all likelihood that'll be the last trip that you take, because they see us as stirring up the black people over there. One thing that I found, and I don't know how you're going to respond to this, as bad off as we are, as brain damaged as we are, most black folk around the world, in fact, all the black people that I've encountered globally, I've had a chance to visit 26 countries in the last few years, they see us as the most advanced and progressive black people on the planet. And they look to us for leadership and guidance and direction, which means we have a special responsibility. Brothers and sisters, I don't believe that we were taken out of that door of no return for no reason. I think we have a mission and a destiny and a purpose. And a part of that mission and destiny and purpose is, I think, to redeem our ancestors, many of whom died in the transatlantic slave trade, but many more of whom survived so that another generation would have a better way of life. I think, whether we like it or not, that we are that generation. And we have a duty and obligation to our ancestors as living memorials to say that you did not die and suffer in vain, and we're here to redeem you. No, we'll go back. I want to stay on that for a moment. Now, this piece right here, this is a beautiful slide, and this is of another group of folk that I've really fallen in love with in terms of the Indian experience. These people are sometimes called scheduled tribes, or sometimes simply tribal people or tribals, and sometimes they're called Adivasis, A-D-I-V-A-S-I-S, and these are the indigenous people of India. Most of the time I talk about the black untouchables, sometimes called outcasts or Dalits. But these people, more than anybody else, represent the first people on Indian soil. And this particular sister, beautiful sister, is from a group called the Santals, S-A-N-T-A-L-S. And they live in eastern and northeast India. There's about 10 million of them. Next. Focus it. These black people here that you don't see driving the taxis back and forth from Manhattan to LaGuardia, you see a different kind of Indian. They represent the indigenous people, and we had an opportunity to visit them. Let me just show you 2 or 3 of these slides, and I want to talk about why I'm mentioning them now. Now, this last tour that I took was in April 1999. Next. Next. Next slide. The reason I'm showing this is because I think that all of these people are dead now. It seems like I have a tendency to go places and all kind of things happen after I leave. For example, this part of India, which is in a state called Orissa, outside of a city called Bhubaneswar, where we went to, you can see the Indian Ocean in the background. In fact, this is the Bay of Bengal. Within a few months from the time we left there was a massive cyclone, and about 20,000 people were killed. And I'm assuming that a lot of these brothers and sisters that we had a chance to interact with were among the victims. They took us into their homes. They welcomed us with open arms. On this trip, on our first night that we were there was a big reception for us. The keynote speaker spoke on the life and times of Malcolm X. Okay? We went to another location, and the keynote speaker finished the program, the moderator of the program, who reminded all of us of Dr. John Henry Clark, the late great Dr. John Henry Clark, who was deep in our hearts, finished the program with a recital of Claude McKay's epic poem of resistance, If We Must Die. If we must die, let it not be like hogs penning in a glorious spot. The next place we went to, in Calcutta, a group of brothers and sisters met us with their fists in the air. You'd have thought they were members of UAM, shouting, "Free Mumia Abu Jamal." You can't hardly get black people in the United States to do that. And the whole trip was like that. Finally, by the time we got towards the middle of the trip, the police were following us everywhere. We went to a program in a state called Kerala, which a program organized by a group called the Kerala Dalit Panthers, who named themselves after the Black Panther Party. They met us at the airport and says, Runoko, we have a program to end all programs. I lectured for them in 1998 in front of about 5,000 people on the subject of global unity of African people. It went so well that we decided to come back next year and do it even bigger. So they said, Runoko, this time we're going to have 10,000 people. And we're going to call it an African Dalit Unity Fest. The police got wind of it. I was summoned immediately. The police followed us from the airport into the office of the commissioner of the police, who first thing he did took my passport. Now, before we got ready to leave, because they had to rally anyway, somebody gave me 3 necklaces with ankhs on them. Asked me if I was a Christian. And I said, well, why would you ask me that? This is because you have all those crosses around your neck. And I said, brother, that's not a cross. This is an ankh. I explained what it was. So when I came back, this brother had made 3 ankhs, a coconut shell. One of them had red, black, and green beads on there. Obvious. I'm trying to say the impact Africans from America have on other populations. There, I can see consciousness rising almost tangibly from a radical consciousness to a black consciousness to an African consciousness. And the government of India is terrified of the impact that conscious Africans from the United States are going to have on the black populations there. So they told me to stay out of there. Next. All these people, I'm sure, are wiped out because this was the eye of the hurricane. And for some reason, I was just told to show you these slides tonight. I rarely do that. Next. And again, these are more tribal people. And you can see how black this brother was on the other side of me. He's from a group called the Munda, M-U-N-D-A. And we were met by, in this community, a group called the Munda, the Oran, and the Santals. And this, at that time, was the blackest human being I'd ever seen. This brother was so black, we locked eyes and I was just entranced. I'd never seen a human being that black before. And what was so nice about it was his sense of self-esteem. Here is the only place, one of the few places I've ever been to in the world where the blacker you are, the more beautiful or the more handsome you are considered to be. And it was a refreshing experience, believe me. Next slide. And this is also, I think this might be the last one from India tonight because I've talked about the subject before, but I wanted to just review some of the highlights because I don't think I've had a chance to discuss it in UAM since this most recent trip. Now here we are in a place called Chennai, and there's yours truly, and in the middle is the head of the Evangelical Church of India. And they had Chennai used to be called Madras. And this is a place where Marco Polo, the Venetian traveler, went to about 1285 and 1286. And he said in his book, The Travels, that here, when a child is born, they anoint him once a week with oil of sesame. For this makes him grow much darker than when he was born. For I assure you that here, the blackest man is considered better than the others who are not so black. And as a result of that, they portray their saints and their idols black, and the devil is white as snow. So these are some very insightful black people, okay? And the brother on the other side is a member of the government. They are not Dalits, they're not untouchables. They are of an ethnic linguistic group called the Dravidians. And the whole program was designed to show the connectedness between the Dravidians, these black-skinned people with naturally straight hair, and Africans in the Western Hemisphere. And they were as curious about us as we were about them. And believe it or not, a lot of them will come up and rub our hair. Of course, they had to rub my beard. And they said, oh, what good hair you have. Okay? They call our hair good hair. And they were saying, I wish my hair was like that. And it just shows, I think, some real profound consciousness. Next.